The last bar of cell service blinks out somewhere west of Dubois, and it feels like a small, polite death. I ease the truck onto a rutted Forest Service spur where the pines close in and the mountains hunch like old wolves watching. The map I printed shows a blue thread called Paintbrush Creek and a fan of contour lines packed tight. Good elevation to keep the cold dry, bad if the wind decides to knife me. I'm not here for a fight with the weather though. I'm here for the quiet. Bushcraft in real cold. The kind of night you feel in your teeth. I kill the engine and the world exhales. The air smells of iron and crushed sage. It's late afternoon and the light has that cold Wyoming tin to it, a sun you can look at and not get burned. I shoulder my pack, sling my rifle, and walk until the truck is only a memory. Paintbrush Creek whispers under skim ice, a winding voice. I pick a site 50 yards off its bank where a downed lodgepole pine lies like a gift. Straight seasoned off the ground. There's a shallow rise behind it to break wind and a thicket of fir in front that will drink some of the drift. The ground is needle soft but frozen an inch under. Shelter first. Food can wait. Comfort can wait. Shelter wins in the cold. I notch 2 standing trees facing each other and muscle a ridgepole between them. The downed lodgepole becomes a sacrificial lamb. Lengths for rafters, lengths for a head-high log wall, and a chest-high reflector to throw heat back. I carve saddles and step notches so the logs lock without fighting me. What cord I use sparingly. Roots, a few lashings of paracord, and toggles I whittle with numb fingers. The roof goes fast once the bones are there. Rafters lean from the ridge pole to the back wall. A lattice of thin poles, then layers of fir boughs, scale over scale. I stuff gaps with duff and wedge bark along the peak. I rake a bed of spruce boughs 2 hands thick inside. You don't sleep on the ground in weather like this unless you want the ground sleeping on you. I leave a low doorway I can close with my pack and a roll of canvas. It won't be pretty to a ranger, but it will be warm. I set the fire lay where the reflector will earn its keep, close to the open side of the lean-to, not so close it eats the roof. Tinder goes down. Birch bark, peeled like paper from deadfall. Feather sticks from the lodgepole, curls thin as angel hair. Kindling, pencil, finger, then wrist-thick sticks, staged like a blueprint. A pot hanger comes next, a Moore-style crank with notches. A green sapling hook, whose shoulder will hold a stew at a simmer while I work. I dig a shallow cold sink pit just outside the doorway, where I can keep a bottle of water from freezing solid. The wind picks up, knitting the treetops together. Somewhere far off, a single flat crack. Could be a branch popping in the cold, could be something else. I strike the ferro rod, and the world remembers fire. Orange washes the bark with warmth. Night arrives like a door closing. I tell myself I came for this, and for a while, I believe it. The ritual of food steadies the hands. I melt creek ice in the pot until the water clears, then add a fist of dried potatoes, carrots, and onion I'd bagged at home. A half cup of venison jerky follows, chopped to loosen in the boil. The smell feels like cheating in air this clean. I cut a length of Polish sausage, kielbasa, fat and smoked, and sear the coins on a flat rock I've pushed to the fire's lip. The casings blister and spit. I throw the browned sausage into the stew to share its soul with the pot. While it simmers, I go to work on fuel. I baton through wrist-thick lengths of the lodgepole with my knife and a stout chunk of wood, splitting to heartwood that will catch even if surface damp plays tricks. I take long, straight poles for the reflector's top course and drive stakes to keep it from yawning if the wind gets bossy. I make a few more feather sticks because feather sticks are insurance, not decoration. Then I cut a long fire lay. 2 logs parallel with coals banked between. and stage extra rounds so I can feed it in the dark without thinking. The clean way to be warm is to move while the light is kind. When I lift the pot hanger to stir, the stew speaks in small, glad sounds. I salt it, add black pepper until it looks like sky before a flurry, and ladle out a first bowl that burns my tongue and makes me grateful for pain. I eat the sausage with gloved fingers and it tastes like every good winter I've had and all the ones I haven't. Something moves beyond the reflector. Not big, not yet, just a suggestion. A brush of black where black shouldn't be. I set the bowl on the ground and let the steam draw around my face so my eyes don't water. The fire pops. Pine sap hisses where it hits flame. I wait. A breeze wobbles through and brings a smell not in any field manual. Wet fur and pennies, nosebleed metal. Old kennel straw, left in the rain. The hair along my wrists lifts despite the gloves. Wolf, I say aloud because a wolf is a story you can live with. Or cat. Except the sound that follows isn't a wolf's. It's a whistle. Not a man's whistle, with lips shaping melody, but a high thread of air pushed hard through something too narrow, too long. It stops. It comes again from left of where it came before. Then wood knocks, 2, spaced, then 3, as if some conversation is happening tree to tree. I don't love that, and I love what comes next less. The sound of steps too heavy for a deer, too deliberate for an elk. Close, then gone. Closer, then away. Never quite where I'm watching. I slide the rifle from its scabbard and lay it across my knees. Action open, a live round within reach. I stoke the long fire so it shines in the reflector, and I pull my canvas across the doorway until the lean-to is a warm, orange cave. If something wants my heat, it will have to pay for it. The stew tastes like diligence and the sausage like luck. I chew my luck slow. The moon climbs and thins the dark to gauze. Through the open seam by my boots, I see it at last. A cutout between furs, wrong too many ways. Too high at the shoulders for a wolf. Too narrow at the hips for a bear. Arms. That's where the wrongness lives. Arms where there shouldn't be arms. Hands that drag across bark as if tasting it. The head turns and catches firelight in eyes that do not blink when sparks land on them. I set the bowl down as soft as I can and close the action. The sound is uselessly loud. The shape tilts its head and steps back until the trees eat it. The fire speaks in tongues for a long time after. By midnight, a skin of snow has fallen. It makes the night louder in that paradoxical way snow has. Every small thing becomes audible because the world is holding its breath for it. I lay strip lines at shin height using bank line, hang a few tin lids from a stump with hooks I've carved, and stake a chum bag on a branch, half a football field out. Just fat scraps from the sausage and a sliver of jerky. If it draws something with a conventional name, I'll know. If not, I'll know something else. I bank the long fire, feed the parallel logs, and lie on the bough bed with my boots on, rifle under my right hand, my left on the knife, because it makes me feel like there's more than one answer. I pull my wool cap low and work the sleeping bag's collar around my mouth so my breath doesn't drown me in frost. The little things keep you here: dry socks, a warm bottle between thighs, a vent gap in the lean-to so fire breath doesn't poison you in your sleep. The lids tinkle once, wind twice, again a little tighter together. The third time the sound cuts off like someone pinched the string. I come up on an elbow and listen to my own blood too long. Then it comes, a low chuff, not a bear's warning, more a dog's impatient cough, then another. The trip line to the left slaps the stake and goes quiet. The footfalls, God, there are 2 sets, one heavy and bipedal, one light and wrong fast. 4 beats, where there should be two, but grouped like they're trying to remember how feet ought to go. I speak, "Get," and the night doesn't care. I fire around over their heads because I still believe in conversations. The crack cracks the mountains. Branches shake down snow. Silence after. For long minutes, the only sound is snow, slow and thoughtful. I reload and sit with my back against the log wall, the heat of the fire trying to crawl into my bones, and the cold trying to evict me. At some hour when numbers don't mean much, the lids tinkle again and then something drags along the reflector. Fingers, claws, a zipper noise across bark. It ends with a tap on the ridgepole that I feel through the logs as much as hear. A territorial gesture. A knock on the front door from someone who knows you're home. The shape that shows itself this time is closer. I can count ribs under its coat, where moonlight paints them silver. It stands a head taller than me, even crouched. Digitigrade legs folded like a runner's at the block. Its ears are torn and ragged and swivel toward the lids. Toward me, toward the fire, never resting. The snout is wolf length until it opens. And then it's longer than that, unhinged enough to make room for a sense of humor you don't want to meet. My crosshairs find the shoulder. The breath leaves me on the exhale the way I was taught. I keep my fingers straight, because the fire between us is both warmth and shield, and I don't know what this shot would mean. I don't shoot, not yet. Behind it to the right, something mirrors its tilt as if a shadow, practiced by heart. So there are two. The first one steps closer until heat strikes its face. It snarls in a voice that skids between animal and argument. The second's teeth clatter as if from cold, but the sound is amusement. I say very quietly, "Okay." The lids tinkle again, far off, a third. They circle until the logs sweat and the lean-to breathes like a living thing. They circle until dawn pinks the eastern ridge and the cold softens, and the shapes resolve slowly into the ordinary forms of trees not moving. When the light is honest, they are gone, leaving only prints that look like a lie that almost got away with itself. Canine pads, yes, but elongated, with the ghost of a toe where a thumb should never be. The stride is 6 feet between impressions, as if the ground bored them, and they wanted to be done with it. The chum bag is untouched. I don't put that in any category I enjoy. Daylight is chores and decisions. I stoke the fire until the reflector thrums with heat and I make coffee strong enough to lift me by the collar. The cup won't steady my hands, but it gives them a job. I eat stew for breakfast because calories are promise notes written to your future. The sausage is down to 3 coins I save like prayers. The tracks circle the camp twice, then peel off up the ridge where the timber opens. On one lodgepole near the ridge, a rake of claw has lifted bark 6 feet higher than I can reach. Higher than I can reach with my knife held in both hands. I run fingers along the sap bleed and feel the trees shiver under skin. I decide the lean-to isn't enough. I fell 2 straight young firs and set them parallel in front of the fire, waist high, a rack for long logs. I build a crescent of stacked rounds beyond that, a second reflector to catch what the first throws. Between the two, I plan a long fire that can run like a small furnace, calm and even. If it works, the air in the crescent will warm as if it belonged to me. If it fails, it will be a beacon. I cut a green pole and fashion a figure 4 deadfall because the rhythm of whittling keeps me inside my own skull. I don't need rabbit meat. I need something to behave as the world says it should. I make 2 more pot hooks with deep shoulders, cut a diagonal notch into a support, and fit it like a puzzle until the pot sits steady. I sharpen a dozen stakes and hammer them in with a baton to pin the lower courses of the crescent. Clouds stack and sag. Afternoon wears its grey at eye level. I can feel the temperature want to drop through me and into the ground. I lay in fuel, like I believe in tomorrow. When dusk arrives, I light the long fire between the parallel logs and feed it slow until the coals are a red ocean. The shelters breathe and exhale a kind of domestic heat. It's almost cozy, which is a trick the cold likes to play to see if you'll go sloppy. I don't. I check trip lines, reposition tins, run a second line to my wrist through the lean-to so any drag will tickle me awake. Dinner is the last stew thickened from what's left of the pot. The 3 coins of sausage cut small to make the mind think plenty. I ladle it and watch the liquid skin tauten in the air and then heal. And I think about the way a body survives not by being stronger than the world, but by getting small where the world is big and big where it is small. I think about not being the only thing out here that thinks. The first assault isn't cautious. It comes like a dog certified in how to break a door. The tins scream, something shoulders the reflector until logs tumble, and the long fire breathes sparks into the low sky as if choking. I roll out, rifle in my hands and fire front heat slapping my face. The crescent holds, barely, so that the thing that jumps it lands in coals up to the shin. The smell makes my vision narrow, singed hair, cooked hide, something like burned pennies again. Something like money, melted with a curse inside. It yowls and I shoot, and the shot is a rock in a still pond, but the water of the world doesn't close after it. The creature's chest jumps, and the sound that comes out of it is almost words without vowels. It grabs the log I shot through and throws it at me. The throw is wrong, too casual for the distance it gets. It knocks the lean-to's corner clean off. The roof dips like a tired head and holds, because I overbuilt without being smart enough to know I was doing it. I chamber and fire again, the shoulder, because I still can't bring myself to draw a bead on the eye. The second shot spins it sideways, and the second shape hits the reflector like a linebacker, a beat later. The wall falls into the long fire, and the long fire has opinions about that, sending up a sheet of sparks that run through the dark and stick on fur like fireflies deciding to ruin a night. One of them reaches in past the heat and hooks the bed of boughs with a hand that ends in something not a hand. It drags the bedding out to stomp, and then loses interest not because of pain, but because it wants me to know. It can take what I think of as mine. I throw the stew pot in its face because we are past talk, and I don't have better ideas. The boil scalds, muzzle, and eye. The scream that follows chews, bark off trees, for a breath in every direction. The other one laughs, the chittering clack again, and I understand why laughter belongs to us, and they decided to borrow some. I light the end of a green branch, jam it deep into the coals, and thrust it like a spear at the one that's testing the doorway. The hiss on fur is human, as a shower turned too hot and then not. It flinches. I shoot and the shot is uglier. It punches meat I didn't mean to hit because the fire, the branch made in my eyes, chose its own sights for me. They fall back 5 yards and circle, and for the first time I see the outline clear. Wolf and man, married without priest or law. Small waist, huge chest, runner's legs folded wrong, arms that hang between there and not, and a head knotted with bad decisions nature didn't sign off on. They breathe deep, like distance athletes. They do it in cadence. They do it together. They test the circle all night. I keep the fire angry and ready to defend its mood. I keep the rifle's rhythm clean. I keep my feet moving and my mouth closed. Toward morning, the laughing stops. The heavy one limps. I hold the line not because I'm brave, but because nothing else seems on offer. When the dark finally begins to color, it's like somebody clenched and unclenched a fist over the moon. The woods go quiet as a held face. Then I hear water again, then birds, then me returning. Dawn isn't safety, but it is a vote of confidence. I drink the last of the coffee cold and feel it like medicine that forgot it used to be holy. My shelter is a busted jaw that still closes. The reflector is a suggestion leaning on its own refusal to fall. The long fire is a mile of coals that will listen if I ask right. The tracks are everywhere, an argument written down by feet. There's blood dark as axle grease where I hit the first one, and it smells like a penny sucked too hard. The seconds prints overlay the firsts like one mind deciding for two bodies. They went uphill. They always go high in daylight, I think, as if it makes them closer to something that owes them a debt. I could break camp. I should. But the trail down to the truck runs along Paintbrush Creek and then crosses a low saddle where the timber opens. If they own the ridges, they own that saddle. If I run soft, they'll run me harder. If I walk loud, I'm a bell inviting a congregation. So I do both. I pack without tidying because tidy is for people who want to return to a place. I lash the rifle to me like I'm afraid I'll set it down and forget it, and I tuck my knife where my hand falls without thinking. I leave the shelter standing because it feels like a small insult to take it and the fire down. Let them look at what didn't kill me. By the time I hit the creek, the sun is gold on the tops of the firs and useless on the ground. I follow the water to drown my sound and stop at bends to listen to what the day wants me to know. Once, a squirrel blows up a snag and chews me out for existing. Twice, the wind makes ghoul talk in a dead aspen, and I hate a tree. For the first time in my life. 3 times, I smell the pennies again, and the hair inside my ears tries to turn around. They parallel me at a distance, stepping when I step, stopping when I stop. I can't see them, but I can feel an intelligence that has replaced fear with process. The limping one favors the right, dragging just enough to score a line in snow. The other's steps land beside it like a metronome saying, "Again." The saddle comes as a bright oval, open, knee-high scrub, snow crusted by wind. My truck is a mile beyond. I can feel it the way you can feel warmth when you open a door to a room you love. The ridge above the saddle wears tracks like a necklace, coming down, going up, sometimes crossing, once lingering in a knot that looks like standing for a long time, where a man would stand to write down a promise he intends to forget. I step out onto the saddle, and the world gets smaller. Wind, red needles showing through snow, a lone raven surfing thermals, my breath counting. I make 5 steps, then the first one shows itself not to me but to the sun, a silhouette on the ridge, like a bad myth caught, telling itself during daylight. It throws its head back, and the sound it makes is less a howl than a statement we don't have consonants for. The second brakes cover lower down, where the scrub will funnel me if I decide to run. It chooses a trot so easy it's a joke, like a dog showing you it knows a trick where it pretends it won't fetch until it does. I don't run. My legs want to. The animal part of me wants to flip the table and scatter the pieces. I don't let it. I shoulder the rifle smooth, and I don't look at the head. I look at the shoulder, because that's where answers live. I squeeze. The recoil is a social agreement that we'll talk later. The lower one folds onto its wrong legs and rolls like a wolf would, trained by physics, not like a man would. It comes up and the shout it makes is human as fear with all the shame peeled off. The high one comes then, down the ridge in a lope that eats ground. I work the bolt and it sticks because cold is a problem and because God enjoys comedy on mornings like this. I slap the bolt, work it again, feel the case mouth somewhere deep in the action, argue with metal. The creature is closing the distance in big bites. I see the burn on its shin where it met my fire, a black sleeve melted to flesh, and I know it remembers me as clearly as I remember it. The lower one draws a circle to pen me. The higher one takes the line. "Here," I say, and I don't know if I'm talking to them or the rifle. The bolt slides home like we forgave each other for something we'll never discuss. I don't aim at the eye. I don't know why that matters, but it does. The shot is not perfect, and it is not bad. It hits high, spine, or the meat just off it, and the animal slaps the snow with both hands and drags itself into a stand by force of hatred. It screams. The echo comes off the trees in a voice that hasn't been in them for 1,000 years. The lower one stops dead in the open and considers math. It doesn't like the numbers. It backs 2 steps, then 3, then is gone, like it was never anything but snow. The high one looks at me, and I see something that isn't anger cross the black coin of its eye. Weariness, recognition. It collapses in a hunch that looks like prayer and then kicks itself to its feet and limps for the shade. I don't chase. I don't have a round I want to spend on that. I start walking. Not fast, not slow. Rifle at low, ready. Breath happening because it doesn't have anywhere else to be. I make the mile in a time that could be anything. At the truck, the key feels like a mercy in my hand. I throw the rifle on the seat like a sleeping pet and turn the engine until it finds itself. The heater coughs exhaust into the cab and I take it like sacrament. Before I pull out, I look back. On the ridgeline, framed by sun like something a church doesn't want to admit, a silhouette stands too tall to be a wolf and too wrong to be a man. It lifts one hand, no, paw, no, hand, and opens it. Not a wave. A promise. I don't keep mine, I leave. The road to town feels like a vein you could live in. The mountains watch me go without opinion. That night in a motel that knows how to keep keys on a pegboard, I take my boots off and count the cuts on my hands. I wash them until the smell of pennies is something I might have imagined. I eat what passes for dinner, and I do it without sausage and without stew, because some foods belong to places you shouldn't take with you. I sleep with the TV on, because it's the kind of fire I can afford when there isn't one. In the morning, I drive home through sun that has remembered how to be warm, and when my phone wakes up again, it asks me if I want to join a family plan. The question feels obscene. I say no. I look at the rifle later in a room that believes in corners. I find the scratch on the stock I don't remember earning. I don't oil it that night. I sit with it, and the room with me and the sun with both of us until the light is the color of the lodgepole bark, and the smell in my head is not pennies but coffee. And the last thing I let myself think before I let it go is this: I'm not owed another lucky winter, but I might take one anyway. Dawn came, but it didn't bring safety. A ruined shelter smoldered in the snow, claw prints marked the ground, and on the ridge the shadow of something ancient still watched. He made it out alive, but in the Wyoming wilderness, survival is never guaranteed, especially when the dark has teeth. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good scare. More tales from the edge of the firelight are coming soon. And remember, keep your fire burning, because sometimes it's the only thing keeping the night away.